In this video, I'm going to describe the events that are dispatched when you manipulate native windows. I'll be using the application WindowEvents.mxml. This application creates an instance of a native window based on the ordered window 1 component that was used in a previous video. I'll run the application and show that right now all it does is open the window so that we can then manipulate it. I can then close the window by clicking the Close Window button or by clicking the controls on the window itself. I'll close the application and return to FlexBuilder. You can listen for and react to any of the events that occur as the user manipulates the native window. It's worth looking at the help system for the window class. This class dispatches many events having to do with window manipulation. For instance, when a window is closed, there are two events that are dispatched. One named Closing, which is dispatched before the close happens, and one named Close, which happens after the window's been closed. Similarly, there's one called Display State Changing, for when the display state is changing to minimize, maximize, or restore, and one that occurs named Display State Change that's dispatched after the change has happened. There's a resizing and a window resize. Now, many of these events are dispatched as simple event objects. For instance, the close event is dispatched as flash.events.event. The same thing is true for the closing event, but not all native window events are equal. Some of these events dispatch very specialized event objects. For instance, window resize dispatches an event object named FlexNativeWindowBoundsEvent. This event object has properties called AfterBounds and BeforeBounds, which return rectangle objects. And you can determine from the rectangle that was returned the dimensions of the object and the size. So let's take a look at listening for particular events. I'll go back to the WindowEvents.mxml application and place the cursor inside the Open Window method, opening up an empty line of code after the win variable has been instantiated and before it's been opened. I'll call win.addEventListener, and first I'm going to listen for the event event.close. When this event is dispatched, I'll call a method that's already been declared in this application called winEventHandler. I'll do the same thing for the closing event. I'm going to copy that little bit of code that sets up the event listener and then paste it right below and change the second one from event.close to event.closing. Since both events dispatch the same kind of event object, I can reuse the event handler function. Then in the event handler function, I'll add a bit of tracing code. I'll put in a trace function call, a literal string as a label, and then the type of the event, which is the event name. Now I'll run the application in debug mode. I'll click the button to open the native window. Now watch what happens in the console view below as I close the window. First I get the closing event, and then I get the close event. You'll always get the events in that order, and that will be critical when you want to try to prevent certain behaviors, as I'll show you in the next video. Let's take a look at another one of these events. This time, I'm going to listen for the event window_resize. This is the event that occurs when the user has just resized the window. The event object for this event is not a standard event class. Instead, it's an instance of FlexNativeWindowBoundsEvent. So, once again, I'll listen for the event, and this time I'll call the method boundsEventHandler. Then I'll go down to the function that's already been declared in the application, and once again I'll do a trace. I'll save the changes, and once again I'll do a trace to output the event type. I'll run the application in debug mode, open the native window, and this time watch what happens as I resize. I'm going to move the cursor to the border of the window, click down, and then resize just a little bit. And notice that every time I resize even just a pixel, that event is dispatched again. There are many other events you can listen for, and you can look at the documentation to find out which events are dispatched and what data type the event object will be when each event occurs.